Now everybody, let me tell you a story about Hollywood shame, where terrible actors and scripts collide. Oh, what a mess it is on the other side. Saw the lights, camera, action begin, but all I got was a movie that plunged in a spin. From the first scene to the credits that roll, a Hollywood disaster, you've taken its toll. Silver Screen Cesspool, bad movies galore. Can't help but wonder what the hell were they making these for? Throw in some cliches, the sharp and predictable plot. It's a train wreck, I tell you, it's all they ever got.
And now for our feature presentation.
Welcome to the Silver Screen Cesspool, where we review the pool. And now your host, the surveyor of cinema, the mocker of moronic movies, the terror of tiny town, the last known survivor of battlefield Earth, the one of many, Alan Smithee.
Let's talk about the turd of a movie, Getting Lucky, from 1989. We're introduced to our nerdy hero Bill and his tidy whities. He's into recycling, long walks on the beach, and cheerleader Chrissy. And clearly, he's a knockoff of Lewis from Revenge of the Nerds. As luck would have it, Chrissy broke up with her boyfriend after 5th period, and Bill has just been promoted to towel whipping boy for the boys' basketball team. Unlucky for him, by 8th period, she's ready to bone the quarterback of the basketball team in the grass by the school's playground. Nerd boy Bill accidentally interrupts them. Bill continues his quest to save the planet by picking up an empty beer bottle and throws it into a dumpster. Only this beer bottle removes itself from the dumpster. You see, this beer bottle is currently occupied by an alcoholic leprechaun named Lucky. See how this pun is playing out here? Something that Bill never even takes a moment to act surprised about, that there's a leprechaun in a beer bottle. Okay, cool. And just to be clear, this is not a roomy bottle like in I Dream of Jeannie. This poor guy can't even sit down in his own beer bottle that he lives in. So every time we get to see Lucky in the bottle, he's staring straight up at us. And the big question of the movie is, why is a leprechaun in a bottle not a genie? Is it solely for the pun? I don't know. But it turns out Lucky is pretty at his wish granting. Bill wishes for a date with Chrissy, which he gets, and he takes her to the drive-in. But Chrissy decides to bone the other dude in the back seat on her way to the bathroom, and when Bill becomes concerned about her whereabouts, he once again interrupts them. Then Bill wishes for a Lamborghini, and he gets a pinto. The quarterback of the basketball team is understandably pissed about being cock-blocked twice, but Lucky decides to stand up for Bill by making the jock hit himself with his tennis racket before basketball class. Stop hitting yourself! Stop hitting yourself! Why are you hitting yourself? And then he shoves the tennis racket up his own ass, which we get to see the results of. Chrissy decides she was kind of a bitch to Bill and apologizes, and then they go mini-golfing. And the mini-golf montage music is a little ditty that repeats the phrase, "Your heart makes a hole in one." For the record, that's a severe medical condition called ventricular septal defect. You should get that checked out. After the end of the date, Bill absent-mindedly wishes he was a cat, and Lucky, of course, grants the wish. Chrissy is inside watching TV and watching the animals do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. She lets the stray cat in, and then Tony shows up to claim his girl again. Tony being the jock. He tells her when he was at the hospital today, the whole time they were pulling the tennis racket out of his ass, all he could do was think of her, which is terribly romantic. Tony doesn't take rejection well, and he gets a little bit rapey. But Kitty jumps on his back, and Mom comes home, and the police are called. Now, bravo to this movie for not normalizing that type of behavior as boys will be boys, and calling a crime a crime. But Tony's arrest is still kind of played for laughs. He convinces the police questioning him to reduce the charges if he gives them information on the biggest drug dealer on town. Which, of course, according to Tony, is Bill. And, of course, he's not a drug dealer. His mad stacks of cash are from a leprechaun, not from dealing drugs. The next day, the pinto breaks down, so Bill tries to take Chrissy to school on his bike. He needs to adjust the bike seat, but his wrench is too big, so once again, wish-granting Leprechaun tries to shrink it. But he accidentally shrinks Bill too. Tiny 1-inch tall Bill is still on the bicycle seat when Chrissy decides to ride the bike to school. So we're treated to Bill desperately hanging on to the edge of her gigantic panties with gigantic pubic hair poking out the sides. And when he feels like he's about to fall, he climbs into her panties, so he doesn't. This movie got creepy quickly. And then he's kind of trapped in there with this giant forest of giant pubic hair. Like pubic hair bigger than your arm, just dangling there in his face. Why? How is being the size of pubic lice and crawling around in somebody's panties supposed to be erotic and or funny? I don't know. And then it gets worse. Chrissy is sitting in class and she's enjoying Bill crawling around in her panties because Meg Ryan's got nothing on her, if you know what I mean. The older male teacher, in unison, is working himself into a frenzy, talking about Lewis and Clark or some shit like that. And then it gets worse. Just as the teacher reaches the climax of his lecture, Chrissy also reaches her climax. Teach pulls out a cigarette and lights it up as everyone shuffles off to the next class. So Bill just hangs out in her granny panties for the rest of the day until after cheerleading practice, and Chrissy hits the showers. He's still clinging to her pubes until he's washed away in the shower. This is like the nightmare version of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. What kind of daft punk wrote the script to Getting Lucky? Bill's about to drown in the shower drain when Lucky finally gets off his ass and makes him full size again. And at which point Chrissy is dressing again and the missing wrench and Bill's glasses magically appear at full size in her panties she's wearing. And then it gets worse. Bill gets in trouble for being in the girls' shower and for having a beer bottle on school property. So the principal is paddling his ass, and what the fuck? This movie is not magically delicious in the slightest. Lucky steps in and makes the principal hit himself with the paddle, and please, please, please let this paddle not be going up his ass. Chrissy decides, since she got stood up by Bill for the morning commute, and because he was a peeping Tom in the shower, she's going to break up with him after their one date. So to change her mind, he tells her that he loves her after one date. She holds fast, though, until interrupted by another cheerleader, and then she decides they should just go ahead and commit to each other because she has the attention span and personality of a goldfish. So for the next date, they're walking down the side of the road, picking up trash, mainly pages from the script because they are trash. This goes on for a silent 2 minutes for reasons unknown. On their next date, Chrissy says she's saving herself for marriage, which my boy Bill is cool with. But he also sees paradise by the dashboard light and immediately proposes. And she immediately accepts because Chrissy can't decide if she's a heartless bitch or if she has the personality of wet cardboard. It seems to vary from sentence to sentence at times. Next, we see Bill saying goodbye to Lucky as he's shoving his beer bottle into a plain manila envelope and mailing him back to Ireland. Wasn't his curse supposed to be lifted after he granted 3 wishes? Why can't he just magic himself back to Ireland? How do they expect that beer bottle not to break in the mail without the slightest bit of packaging beyond a manila envelope? So now it's a month later, and Bill and Chrissy's wedding day. And they drive off into the sunset and live happily ever after. No, wait. Bill is no longer driving his car because it broke down again, and instead he's now driving his dad's car, which conveniently has a back seat for the increasingly deranged Tony to hide in and then carjack them. He forces Bill out of the car and takes off with Chrissy. Bill decides it's time to stop being the zero and be the hero. And lucky for him, a barbarian comes over the nearest ridge, riding 2 horses, 1 foot atop each, reins in one hand. I just want to make it very clear here that this comes out of left field and thematically makes no sense with the rest of the movie, yet it's happening. Bill asks the barbarian to borrow one of his horses to rescue his bride, and the barbarian refuses, stating he can't. He has 2 feet and therefore needs 2 horses. What kind of other answer were you expecting here? The barbarian, however, does have a spare horse he can lend, so he whistles for it, and it shows up so quickly I don't know why it wasn't Bill's first choice of transportation. Bill rides off to save his bride, who is currently being assaulted under a tree by some couple who is just sitting there minding their own business, cooking shish kebabs on the campfire. Bill and Tony commandeer the meat and veggies on sticks to engage in a sword fight, which might have been something had the sticks been more than 1 foot long and had they removed the meat and veggies from the sticks before trying to kill each other. Tony monologues about how there are 2 wild animals fighting over the right to bang the girl, who is going to be so horny from watching this, knowing she's going to have to bone the winner. So clearly Tony hasn't learned anything from those rape charges. In the background, 2 wild stallions are fighting because metaphors are hard for some people to understand, or maybe they're also fighting for the right to bone Chrissy. Who knows? Tony disarms weakling Bill, as expected, and then he thrusts his hands in the air in victory and straight into a beehive as we have gone the full Looney Tunes now. Tony flees, and our newlyweds can finally ride off into the, oh God, it's still not over. The lovebirds settle into their hotel room to consummate their marriage when the cops bust in to investigate that whole drug dealing thing. They saw him mail Lucky back to Ireland and assume that's part of his international drug smuggling. Bill explains to the cops and his wife about Lucky and how there were 3 wishes from a leprechaun and all that plot crap, which only confirms the cops' suspicion of drug use. The cops can't find the non-existent drugs, though, but they do find a bottle of non-alcoholic champagne, which Bill points out isn't legal. The cops are satisfied with that answer and leave. Now, with hormones racing at the speed of light, Bill pops open that bottle of non-alcoholic champagne, and guess who's inside? Christina Aguilera. No, I'm kidding. It's Lucky again. Fade to black, and the movie's over. For real this time, I think. It's over, right? Please, no more. Please, no more. No end credit scenes, no mid credit scenes. Please be over. Please. Getting Lucky is available streaming on Plex.
Silver Screen Cesspool is written, directed, and starring Alan Smithee. Assistant director, producer, and stunt coordinator, Alan Smithee. Boom mic operator, sound editing, and music by Alan Smithee. Construction coordinator, The Amazing Rando. Makeup by Crayola. Catering was provided by the Soylent Corporation. Alan Smithee will be back in Return of the Curse of the Planet of the Prehistoric Bikini Ninjas versus Kingdom of the Bride of the Killer, Shark Cheerleaders 2, Electric Boogaloo.